Hello, and welcome to Sports Update. We'll be looking at the latest sports news from around the region and beyond. I'm Madison Letterman.
We'll also look at college football across the nation and check out the latest happenings in all pro sports. I'm Didi Little, and this is Sports Update on EUTV.
Evangel had some great sports teams last weekend going on, especially with Evangel's volleyball team going up to Missouri Valley and playing a 4-game set with Missouri Valley and ended up winning the whole thing.
For sure. There was a lot of Evangel Crusader action this past week and this past weekend, and we definitely have those stories coming up for you guys. But we're going to start off here with our football game and the homecoming game that happened this past weekend. In their Heart of America Conference home opener, the Evangel Crusader football team looked to do something that hasn't been done since 2002. The Crusaders took on the Pioneers from Mid-America Nazarene, and they looked to secure their first win at home against the Pioneers in 18 years this past weekend. After failing to generate any offense in the first half, the Crusaders came out firing on all cylinders in the second half as they outscored the Pioneers 14-0 in the third quarter to tie the score at 14. However, the Crusaders' comeback bid would eventually fall short as the Pioneers were able to pull away for good with a 3-yard touchdown run with 3 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Crusader running back Darius Lee eclipsed the 2,000-yard mark for his career on an 80-yard touchdown reception during the third quarter, but this was not enough as the Crusaders lost to the Pioneers 28-21.
On Friday, Shane Burns was able to take home the men's individual title at the Columbia College Invitational after finishing the men's 8K in 25 minutes and 38.11 seconds. After that great time by Burns, Evangel was able to take home a team title with help from Grant DeWitt, Christian Davis, and Matt McHenry, who all placed in the top 10 as well. For the women, Emily Standage led the way with a 6th place finish.
The Crusader men's soccer team looked to secure their first conference win as they took on the Graceland Yellow Jackets this past weekend. The Crusaders had 7 shots, with 5 being on goal, and they were able to find the back of the net with a goal from Andrew Flippin in the 32nd minute. Zeke Brown and Jacob Holman both spent time at goalkeeper for the Crusaders as they combined for 7 saves. However, this effort was not enough as the Crusaders fell to Graceland by a score of 4-1. Evangel will look to find the win column the next time out as they take on the Culver Stockton Wildcats on Friday, October the 30th.
Bianca Biffert led Evangel's women's soccer team in their game against Graceland on Friday after completing a hat trick. She was able to score in the 22nd minute after a pass from Allison Reynolds and score again in the 42nd minute after a pass from Sedona Townsend. Reynolds scored the 3rd goal of the game in the 48th minute, and shortly after, Ashley Ard scored a 4th goal. Biffert was able to complete her hat trick in the 76th minute when she gained another goal, making the score 5-0. Abby Schmidt played in the goal the whole game and had 4 saves. Evangel had a total of 26 shots and 15 on goal, which resulted in a win for the Crusaders against Graceland.
Well, it sounds like we had a nice week and past weekend of sports with the women's soccer team and the women's volleyball team picking up wins this past weekend.
Yes, there was so much going on, and this week there's a lot coming up too. For
sure. Isn't that the 7th win in a row for the volleyball team?
Yes, we are on a streak, and we have another game tonight, so make sure to come out this Tuesday.
For sure. That's great. That's great to hear. Hopefully they can extend that winning streak to 8. Up next, we'll be interviewing Coach Bruce Deaton, the women's soccer coach, and he'll be talking about his team.
We'll be right back.
Hart, what's going on?
I'm leaving.
Why? What did I do?
Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit.
Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just please, don't leave.
Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Get caught buzzed driving, and you could do some hard time.
Craig, knock it off.
Sorry, Mom.
It could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And that could set you back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
I'm here with Bruce Deaton, the women's soccer coach. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So how do you feel about the team's current 7-4 victories?
I feel really good about it. We've had a good season. We're doing lots of things. We're a very attacking focused team, and we've been able to do that. Couple losses that occurred in overtime, which you always would like to be able to get those back. And a couple of losses where we played good matches and we just got beat by a little bit better side that day. But so to be 7-4 and being really in the mix for the conference tournament, which is our aim, is still is a pretty good place to be, for sure.
And how many games do you have left until that?
We have 3 regular season games left, and then our conference tournament just last week got moved to the spring of next year. So.
Okay, wow. So what do you think the secret is for these wins so far?
I don't know, it's a secret. We spend a lot of time working on how do we connect together as a team when we get up the field. We spend lots of times on patterns and passing and movement and things that, and just put ideas into players' heads. And, unfortunately, we have very smart players that know what to do when they have the ball. And when our focus is that as soon as the goalkeeper has the ball after another team takes a shot or we get a ball back from them, immediately we're looking for how do we get forward with it. And we do have a really nice job of maintaining possession and moving the ball around the field. And I think that's been something that's helped us to be able to score the number of goals we have this year.
So what are your numbers of goals this year?
Well, we've scored 40. Right now we are currently, and it changes usually game by game, but we've stayed second or third in the nation in goals scored this year. And so, and that's a testament to the work that the ladies are putting in and the things that we're trying to do collectively as a team.
Yeah, of course. So who are your outstanding players this year?
Well, there's lots of them. I mean, needless to say,
Yeah,
but we've been fortunate. Bianca Bifford is our leading scorer. And Bianca was National Offensive Player of the Week a few weeks ago, and has been Conference Offensive Player of the Week. She's second in the nation in goals scored. She has 15. She's leading the conference in goals. Wow. Allison Reinhold, who is our central midfielder, is just a key component of our attack, and so she's top in assists, and she was also Offensive Player of the Week in the conference earlier in the season. And then our goalkeeper Abby Schmidt has had some tremendous games. She was actually National Defensive Player of the Week a couple weeks ago. Our back line's strong, and really and truly it's across the board. I mean, we've got outside of, Bianca is our leading scorer, but there's a number of players who have scored 4, 5, 6 goals. When you put 40 in the back of the net, it gets spread out pretty well. And so lots of quality in the play, so for sure.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So I know the weather is kind of making your game tomorrow kind of iffy. Right. So how is that affecting practices too and stuff?
Well, fortunately, we have some connection locally here so that we can get indoors. So we end up, we did it last night. We did it again this morning. We end up training indoors, and it changes a little bit. We work a lot on speed of play there, which actually then helps us because the space is much more confined, and you've got to play in and out of spaces a lot quicker, and people are always around you. And then when you get out into the game at full speed, that's what happens. So it's a pretty good replication of what's going to happen on the field in a much more confined space. So we have to be able to be stronger technically and be able to play in and out of those spaces quicker. So I think it really does a good job from the standpoint of helping us from a technical side of it. And we work some of our tactical things out as best we can in those confined spaces. But yeah, so we'll do that, and hopefully we might get out a time or two. If we don't play tomorrow, we still have a match on Friday and out of town, and we'd hope to be able to get outside at least once prior to that. But it's not out of the ordinary to get pushed into an indoor space.
Yeah, so with some of your games being pushed to the spring, the finals, you said?
The conference tournament got pushed to the spring. The conference is trying to get all the regular season games in, and there's been a number of postponements that moved the conference tournament a week, and then it ultimately moved it to the spring because play is going to go all the way up through until Thanksgiving.
Okay, so how is it going to be trying to practice during that break?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Have you guys tried to figure anything out with that?
Everything's kind of just you kind of make it up as you go sometimes, but it's sure. We'll have the players typically have a summer training program, and so we'll modify that a little bit to get them some opportunities during the Christmas break to do a little bit of training, and then we'll pick it up as we get back into the spring, knowing that the tournament got moved to the first week of April, so we may pick up a couple of regular season games because we would have a few available to us. So we probably wouldn't play until sometime in March. So we really probably don't really need to get ramped fully up until early part of March. The weather gets a little bit more favorable then, but it'd be almost like doing a second preseason this year. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, of course. Well, we hope to see you in those final games.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in with us today. I appreciate it.
You.
Coming up, Big Ten college football is coming back, and we will be reviewing some big games that happened this past week.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
I spy something beginning with S.
Snow?
No.
Snow-covered trees?
Nothing to do with snow.
Head outside to discover incredible animals and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure.
Wow.
So grab your loved ones.
Don't even.
And explore a world of possibilities.
Come on, this way.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you.
Here's your check.
Oh, you got it. Since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
After a nearly 2-month delay, the Big Ten Conference officially kicked off its football season this past weekend. The conference opened play on Friday night with Wisconsin defeating Illinois 45-7, and this game saw redshirt freshman quarterback Graham Mertz complete 95% of his passes for 248 yards and 5 touchdowns in the Badger win. Heisman hopeful Justin Fields and Ohio State defeated the Nebraska Cornhuskers in their Saturday morning matchup, as Fields also completed 95% of his passing attempts, ran for 54 yards, and scored 3 touchdowns of his own to spark a 52-17 win for the Buckeyes. Penn State was upset on the road by the Indiana Hoosiers after a gutsy play call that saw the Hoosiers convert a 2-point conversion by Michael Penix Jr. that gave them the victory over the Nittany Lions 36-35. The night ended with the Michigan Wolverines defeating the Minnesota Golden Gophers in a matchup between two top 25 teams. Wolverine quarterback Joe Milton threw for 225 yards and a touchdown and ran for another score to help Michigan win 49-24.
The Coastal Carolina men's soccer team played Georgia Southern this past weekend, which ended up being a game that lasted longer than expected. Marcelo Lage scored in the 4th minute for Carolina, and that score held until the 81st minute when Adam Davey scored for Georgia, sending the teams to overtime. With 33 seconds left in overtime, Ethan Hackenberg sent the ball into the net, allowing Coastal Carolina to win the game with a final score of 2-1. This game allowed Carolina to remain undefeated and hold the first-place position in the Sun Belt Conference.
For the 118th time, the Kansas Jayhawks and the Kansas State Wildcats met on the gridiron in the Sunflower Showdown. Things were competitive early on in this rivalry game, as the only scoring came from a Phillip Brooks 55-yard punt return touchdown that put the Wildcats up 7-0 in the first quarter. However, things got ugly for the Jayhawks quickly as the Wildcats scored a combined 48 points in the second and third quarters to give themselves a comfortable lead. Kansas was able to find the end zone late in the fourth quarter, but the game had already been decided by that point. K-State won the game and the Governor's Cup for the 12th year in a row with a score of 55-14. For the first time ever, the Virginia Tech Hokies and the Naval Academy faced off against each other in women's soccer competition. The Hokies were able to find the scoreboard first by way of a goal from Emily Gray in the 22nd minute. Senior Allison Brown was able to double the Hokies' lead to 2-0 with a goal of her own in the 42nd minute as she scored the 8th goal of her career on senior day. Navy was able to find the back of the net right before the half, but the Mids were unable to find an equalizer in the second half as the Hokies were able to hang on and win by a score of 2-1.
Kyler Murray stole the spotlight from Russell Wilson as the Arizona Cardinals defeated the previously unbeaten Seattle Seahawks on Sunday. Wilson completed 33 of 50 passes for 388 yards and 3 touchdowns, all of which went to Tyler Lockett, who brought in 15 catches for 200 yards. The Seahawks had a 34-24 lead with 6 minutes and 44 seconds remaining, but the Cardinals were not done. Murray completed an 8-yard touchdown pass to Christian Kirk, which made the Cardinals fall short by only 3 points. Then Murray led another drive to set up a 44-yard field goal from Zane Gonzalez to send the game into overtime. Gonzalez hit another field goal with 48 yards and with 15 seconds remaining in the overtime to gain the victory for the Cardinals, ending the game with a final score of 37-34. In Game 5 of the World Series, the Los Angeles Dodgers were determined to fight against the Tampa Bay Rays. The Dodgers' very own Clayton Kershaw held the Rays to 2 runs, which made his total postseason career strikeouts reach 207, which passes Justin Verlander's 205 for the most in MLB history. The Rays gave up 4 runs to the Dodgers' offense and were only able to score twice, which resulted in the Dodgers taking the victory in Game 5. This places the Dodgers ahead of the Rays by 1 game in the series, which puts them in position to possibly win the World Series title for the first time since 1988.
Wow, that's really exciting if you're a Dodgers fan. You're on the brink of a World Series championship for the first time in nearly 30 years?
Yes, some people it would be like their first one seeing in like their whole life, especially if you were my age.
100%. Well, there were a lot of interesting games that were on actually yesterday on the Monday Night Football game. The Rams took on the Bears, and the Rams actually won that game by a score of 24-10.
Yes, and we also had some great games on Sunday, but one of them concluded in Odell Beckham Jr.'s ACL tear, which is terrible for the Browns, but they also ended up getting that win. So
yes, Baker Mayfield showed out. He had 5 touchdowns in that game, and I don't know if you saw it, but the last ball that he threw to win them the game was an absolute dime. So it was pretty impressive to see that.
Yeah, I bet.
100%. And the Chiefs also won, for all my Chiefs fans that are here in the area.
Mm-hmm. Woo.
Go Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes didn't do too much by way of passing the ball, but they actually did score in all 3 phases of the game, so that's pretty impressive if you're a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, there was so much going on.
For sure. Well, that's a lot of stuff that's happening around the country, but let's check out what's coming up for our Crusader Sports here on campus.
Coming up, our football team will have an away game at Missouri Valley Saturday, October 31st, with kickoff starting at 1 p.m. So if you want to watch that game, you'll have to tune in online.
Our volleyball team has a home game this Tuesday, October the 27th, and they'll be taking on the Central Methodist Eagles, and game time is starting at 7 p.m. This is senior night for our volleyball team, so be sure to come out and support our seniors as they take the court in the Ashcroft for one of the last times.
And our women's soccer team is hoping to play on Wednesday, October 28th versus Baker University at 5 p.m. as long as the weather holds up here in Springfield. And then both the men's and women's teams will play Saturday, October 31st at Culver Stockton.
Our men's basketball season is getting underway this coming Saturday, and they'll be taking on the Oklahoma Wesleyan in an away game, which will be taking place in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Tip-off is scheduled for 3 p.m., so be sure to tune in online for that matchup.
There is so much going on this week, and we're all super excited to see what the outcomes of these games are.
100%, and a lot of these games are actually taking place on Halloween, so it might get a little spooky for the teams that are playing against the Crusaders.
Yes, of course. Well, that's all the time that we have today for Sports Update. I'm Madison Letterman.
And I'm Dee Dee Little. Be sure to join us next week as we bring you the latest in sports news. This has been Sports Update on EUTV.